I still have the email. Printed out, folded in thirds, tucked in the bottom drawer of my desk under tax returns from 2019. I don't look at it often, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, always late at night when I can't sleep and the questions get too loud. The paper has gone soft from handling, the creases worn, nearly transparent. I know every word by heart. Every terrible, true, unforgivable word. It was sent at 2:17 a.m. on October 9th, 2019. Subject line: I need to tell you something. Recipient: Amanda Brennan, my best friend's fiancée of 6 months, a woman I'd met exactly 4 times. By noon that day, their engagement was over. By evening, Jake had called me every name he could think of, his voice ragged with a pain so raw it didn't sound human. By the end of the week, 8 years of friendship, the kind where you know each other's worst moments, where you've held each other through breakups and job losses and the death of Jake's father, was gone. Erased. Like it had never existed. And the question I've been trying to answer for 3 years is this: did I do the right thing? Jake Chen and I met in graduate school, marketing program at Berkeley, both of us transplants trying to figure out California, both of us cynical enough to bond over our shared disdain for the relentless optimism of tech culture. He was from Boston, sharp and funny and kind in a way that surprised you because he could come across as abrasive at first. I was from Ohio, quieter, more careful. We balanced each other. He pushed me to take risks I wouldn't have taken alone. I kept him from burning bridges he'd regret. We graduated in 2011. Both ended up in San Francisco working for different agencies, and stayed close through everything that came after. His mother's cancer diagnosis, my disastrous relationship with a woman who cheated on me with her yoga instructor, his father's sudden heart attack, my promotion to senior strategist. We were the kind of friends who could go 3 weeks without talking and pick up exactly where we'd left off. The kind who knew each other's damage and loved each other anyway. Jake had dated a lot after grad school, but nothing serious. He'd joked that he had commitment issues, that he was romantically stunted. But I knew the real reason. His parents' marriage had been difficult. His father distant, his mother anxious and controlling, and Jake carried that fear that he'd replicate it somehow, that he wasn't capable of healthy love. So he kept things casual, surface level, safe. Then he met Amanda. It was March of 2019 at a marketing conference in Austin. She worked in PR for a biotech startup, smart and ambitious with dark hair she wore in a perpetually messy bun and a laugh that felt calculated, like she'd practiced which version got the best response. That's uncharitable, I know. But it's what I noticed the first time Jake brought her to dinner at my place, 2 months after they'd started dating. Jake was different around her, not in the obvious glowing new relationship way, but in a way that unsettled me. Quieter, more careful. He laughed at her jokes even when they weren't funny, and when she corrected him about minor details, the name of the restaurant they'd gone to last week, the title of the movie they'd seen, he'd defer immediately. You're right, yeah, I always get those mixed up. But he seemed happy, so I kept my mouth shut. They got engaged in September, 6 months into the relationship. Jake called me from Amanda's apartment, breathless and excited, talking so fast I could barely follow. He'd proposed at the Golden Gate overlook at sunset, and she'd cried. And it was perfect. And would I be his best man? Of course, I said. Congratulations. I'm happy for you. And I was, at first. Or, I thought I was. It's hard to know now where genuine happiness ended and something else began. The first real warning sign came 3 weeks after the engagement. Jake and I were supposed to meet for our usual Wednesday dinner, a standing date we'd kept for years, just the two of us. A dive bar in the Mission that served excellent carnitas and terrible margaritas. Jake texted an hour before. Amanda's not feeling great, gonna stay in with her. Rain check? No problem, I texted back. Hope she feels better. It happened again the next week, and the week after that. By November, I'd seen Jake alone exactly once in 2 months. Every other interaction was a group thing. Dinners with Amanda, drinks with Amanda's friends, a housewarming party for Amanda's co-worker. And in those group settings, I started noticing things. The way Amanda would touch Jake's arm when she wanted his attention. A light pressure that looked affectionate, but functioned as a redirect. The way she'd finish his stories if they were taking too long, smoothing them out, making them punchier. The way she'd check her phone constantly, but get annoyed if Jake looked at his. Small things. Things you could explain away individually. but together they formed a pattern. I tried to talk to Jake about it once, carefully, after Amanda had left early from a birthday dinner for a mutual friend. "Hey, everything good with you two?" I asked. "You seem a little stressed lately." Jake had smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, man, all good. Wedding planning is just a lot, you know. Amanda's got strong opinions about everything, which is great, but it's exhausting keeping up." Strong opinions was an interesting way to describe what I'd witnessed. Amanda overruling Jake's suggestion for a small ceremony in favor of a 200-person event, Amanda vetoing his choice of honeymoon destination because Bali is so overdone, Amanda insisting they register at stores Jake would never shop at because we need to think about our aesthetic. But he'd said everything was fine, so I dropped it. The night I sent the email, I'd been working late on a campaign pitch that was due the next morning. Deadline pressure, too much coffee, not enough sleep. I'd been at my apartment since 6 p.m., and by midnight my eyes were burning and my brain was sludge. I took a break, poured myself a whiskey, and made the mistake of checking social media. Amanda had posted a photo from earlier that evening. Her and Jake at some restaurant I didn't recognize, both of them smiling. Caption, "Date night with my favorite human. Can't wait to marry this man in 127 days. 127 days, 17 weeks, 4 months. Something about seeing that number made my chest tight. I clicked through to Amanda's profile, started scrolling. It was a greatest hits reel of their relationship, carefully curated. Every photo was flattering to her. In the ones where Jake looked bad, eyes half closed, mouth open mid-sentence, he was tagged anyway. There were posts about wedding planning, about how challenging it was to blend their lives, about how she was teaching Jake to be more present, more communicative, more what she needed. I kept scrolling. Found a post from 2 weeks earlier, a quote graphic. "A real partner doesn't make you choose between them and your friends, but they also don't make you feel guilty for wanting to spend time with them. Balance is key." The comments were full of her friends agreeing, supporting, heart emojiing, and I sat there with my whiskey and thought, this is not balance. This is erasure. I opened a new browser tab, started typing. I told myself I was just getting my thoughts organized, that I wouldn't actually send anything, but the whiskey was loosening my restraint, and the exhaustion was stripping away the filter that usually kept me from saying things I couldn't take back. The email started as a list. Observations, documented incidents, patterns I'd noticed over the past 6 months. Then it became something else, a plea, an intervention. I wrote about how Jake had changed, how he'd become smaller somehow, how the light in him seemed dimmer. I wrote about the canceled dinners, the controlled conversations, the way he'd stopped telling his own stories. I wrote about Amanda's social media performativity, the way every moment of their relationship seemed engineered for maximum external validation. And then I wrote about love, real love, the kind that doesn't require you to sand down your edges or apologize for taking up space, the kind that doesn't keep score or post about teaching your partner like they're a project. I told Amanda that if she really loved Jake, the actual Jake, not the version she was trying to create, she'd loosen her grip. She'd let him breathe. I wrote, "I'm telling you this not because I don't want Jake to be happy, but because I do, and what I'm watching doesn't look like happiness. It looks like someone learning to make themselves smaller to fit into someone else's vision of what a relationship should be. If that's what you both want, if Jake is genuinely choosing this, then I'll shut up and be wrong. But I don't think he's choosing. I think he's complying. And there's a difference." I read it twice, 3 times. Every word was true. I believed that completely. I still do, mostly. I hit send at 2:17 a.m. By 2:19 a.m., I knew I'd made a catastrophic mistake. The regret was instant and physical. My stomach dropped. My hands started shaking. I stared at the sent confirmation and thought about all the ways this could go wrong, all the ways I'd just detonated 8 years of friendship. I thought about calling Jake, warning him, explaining. But what would I say? "Hey, I just sent your fiancé a 1-200-word email explaining why I think she's manipulating you. Just wanted to give you a heads up." I closed my laptop, finished the whiskey, tried to sleep, failed. Amanda called Jake at 6:30 a.m. I know because Jake called me at 7:15, and the first thing he said was, "What the fuck did you do?" His voice was shaking. Not with anger yet. That would come later. This was pure shock. Disbelief. "Jake, Amanda is sobbing in the bathroom. She showed me your email. She can't even look at me. She thinks, his voice cracked. She thinks I've been complaining about her to you, that everything we've been building is a lie. What the fuck were you thinking? I was thinking that she's not good for you. Silence, then. You don't get to decide that. I know, you're right. I shouldn't have sent it. But Jake, everything I said was what? True? From your perspective? You've spent, what, maybe 20 hours total around Amanda? You think that qualifies you to judge our entire relationship? I've spent 8 years around you, and I've watched you disappear over the past 6 months. I'm getting married. I'm building a life with someone. That's not disappearing. That's growing up. Something you clearly know nothing about since you've been alone for 3 years and apparently can't stand to see me not alone too. The accusation hit like a fist. That's not what this is about. Isn't it? Be honest, Connor. When was the last time you were in a serious relationship? When was the last time you had to compromise or consider someone else's needs or show up for someone who wasn't me? You're jealous. That's what this is. You're jealous that I found someone, and you can't stand that I'm prioritizing her over our little Wednesday night bromance sessions. That's not... I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your justifications or your concerns or your observations. You went behind my back and attacked the woman I love. You violated her privacy and mine. You tried to sabotage my engagement, and you did it at 2 a.m. after drinking, which means even you knew it was wrong. He wasn't entirely wrong about that last part. Jake, please, can we just talk in person? Let me... No. We're done. Don't call me. Don't text. Don't show up at my place. We're done. He hung up. I tried calling back. 3 times. He didn't answer. I texted. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have sent it. Please let me explain. No response. I found out later, through mutual friends, what happened after that phone call. Amanda and Jake had a 5-hour conversation in which she cried, he apologized for my behavior, and they tried to move past it. They couldn't. The damage was done. Not because of anything I'd written. Amanda never showed Jake the full email, just told him the general content. But because once those observations were out in the world, once someone had named the patterns, they couldn't be unseen. Amanda broke off the engagement 3 days later. She told Jake she couldn't marry someone whose best friend thought she was toxic, that it proved they weren't on the same page, that she deserved a partner who would defend her unconditionally. Jake apparently did defend her, told her I was wrong, begged her to reconsider, but she'd made up her mind, and Jake blamed me, completely, deservedly in his mind. I tried to reach out over the next few months, sent a long apology email that went unanswered, tried calling on his birthday. Nothing. I talked to mutual friends, asked them to intervene, to explain that I'd been trying to help even if I'd gone about it wrong. Most of them were sympathetic but unwilling to get involved. One friend, Marcus, was blunt. Man, you fucked up. I don't know if you were right about Amanda or not, but the way you did it, going around Jake, sending that email behind his back, that's a betrayal, and I don't know how you come back from that. I didn't come back from it. 8 months after I sent the email, I heard through the same network of friends that Jake was dating someone new, a woman named Priya, a professor at SF State, someone he'd met at a bookstore. They took it slow. A year later, they got engaged. 6 months after that, they got married in a small ceremony in Napa. I wasn't invited. Obviously, I've seen photos. Marcus posted some on social media, and I tortured myself by looking through them. Jake looked happy, really happy. The kind of happy that radiates, that you can see even in a still image. Priya looked at him like he was the best thing that had ever happened to her, and he looked at her the same way. There was a photo of them dancing, Jake's head thrown back laughing, Priya grinning, with her forehead pressed against his chest. It was everything I'd wanted for him, everything I'd thought Amanda wasn't giving him, and I wasn't there. That's when the questions really started. Late at night, unable to sleep, I'd pull out that folded email and read it again, trying to figure out if I'd been right. Was I protecting Jake from a manipulative relationship? Or was I projecting my own loneliness and jealousy onto a situation I didn't fully understand? Was Amanda actually toxic, or was she just a strong personality that I didn't vibe with? Were the patterns I noticed real warning signs, or were they normal relationship compromises viewed through the distorted lens of someone who hadn't successfully compromised with anyone in years? I started seeing a therapist in early 2021 Dr. Sarah Lynn, a woman in her 50s who had a practice in the Sunset District and a way of asking questions that made you confront things you'd been avoiding. I told her about the email in our third session, and she was quiet for a long time after I finished. "What do you think you were trying to accomplish?" she finally asked. "I was trying to save my friend from making a mistake." "Were you? Or were you trying to save yourself from losing him?" I didn't have an answer. Over the next year, we unpacked it. My fear of abandonment, rooted in my parents' divorce when I was 12. My pattern of keeping people at arm's length while simultaneously resenting when they got close to others. My tendency to intellectualize emotions, to frame feelings as logical observations, so I wouldn't have to admit they were feelings. The way I'd built my identity around being Jake's best friend, his confidant, his most important person, and how threatened I'd felt when Amanda started taking up that space. "Here's what I think," Dr. Lynn said in one session. "I think everything you wrote in that email was probably true. I think you did notice real patterns. I think Amanda was probably changing the dynamics of Jake's life in ways that were uncomfortable to watch. But I also think you were too close to it to evaluate it objectively. You had too much to lose, and instead of being honest with yourself about that, you framed it as concern for Jake, which meant you could act on your own fear while believing you were being selfless. So I was wrong to send it? I think you were wrong to send it the way you did if you'd talked to Jake first, directly, and said, 'I'm struggling with how your relationship with Amanda is changing our friendship, and I'm noticing some things that worry me.' That would have been honest. Maybe he would have listened, maybe not. But it would have been about your relationship with him, not your relationship with his relationship. Going to Amanda directly, behind his back, that wasn't about protecting Jake. That was about controlling a situation you felt powerless in. She was right. I hated that she was right, but she was. The email is still in my desk drawer. I've thought about throwing it away dozens of times, but I can't. It feels important to keep it, evidence of the worst version of myself. The version that thought he knew better, that thought love was about protection and control rather than trust and release. I ran into Jake once, about 6 months ago, downtown, outside a coffee shop. We saw each other from 20 feet away, and for a second I thought he might cross the street to avoid me, but he didn't. He walked up, stopped a few feet away, and said, "Hey." "Hey," I said. "How are you?" "Good. Really good, actually. Married now." He held up his left hand, showed me the ring. I heard, "Congratulations. I'm happy for you." He nodded, shifted his weight. "Look, Connor, you don't have to say anything. I know I fucked up. I've known since the morning after I sent it, and I'm sorry, not just for sending the email, but for all of it, for not being honest about what I was really feeling, for making your relationship about me." Jake looked at me for a long moment. "I appreciate that, I do. But I can't just go back to how things were." "I know. You broke my trust, and you broke Amanda's too. She was a real person, Connor. Maybe she wasn't right for me." He paused. "Actually, she wasn't right for me. Priya made me realize that. But that doesn't mean you were right to do what you did. Amanda deserved better than to have someone who barely knew her send her a manifesto about why she wasn't good enough." "You're right. And the thing is, I needed to figure that out myself. I needed to realize that relationship wasn't working without someone telling me. Because I did realize it, eventually. 3 weeks after she broke off the engagement, I felt relief. And then I felt guilty about the relief. And then I felt grateful that it was over. But I couldn't tell you that because we weren't speaking. I'm sorry I wasn't there for that." "Yeah, me too." He checked his watch. "I should go. Priya's waiting." "Jake, do you think we could ever, I don't know, get coffee sometime?" He considered it. "Maybe. Not now, but maybe someday." "I don't hate you, Connor. I'm just not ready to trust you again." "That's fair." He walked away, and I stood there on the sidewalk with people flowing around me, and I felt the finality of it. We might have coffee someday, years from now. We might rebuild some version of friendship, but it would never be what it was. That was gone. Destroyed by 1,200 words, sent at 2:17 a.m. by someone who thought he was helping. The mistake cost me my best friend. Not immediately. There was the phone call, the blocked numbers, the unanswered emails, but ultimately, permanently. And the worst part is that I still don't know if I was wrong about Amanda. Maybe she was manipulative. Maybe Jake would have been miserable. Maybe I saved him from a bad marriage. But maybe she was just imperfect in ways that clashed with my image of who Jake should be with. Maybe she would have grown. Maybe they would have figured it out. Maybe their relationship would have evolved into something healthy and happy. Or maybe it would have ended naturally, on their own terms, without my intervention. I'll never know. And neither will Jake, because I took that choice away from him. Dr. Lynn asked me once what I'd learned from all this. I told her I'd learned that being right doesn't make you righteous, that good intentions don't excuse bad actions, that love, real friendship, is about trusting people to make their own mistakes, even when you think you can see the crash coming. It's about being present for the aftermath, not trying to prevent the impact. I'd learned that 2 a.m. is never the right time to send an email, that whiskey and righteousness are a dangerous combination, that 8 years of friendship can be erased by a single moment of believing you know better than someone else what they need. Most of all, I'd learned that you can't protect people from their own lives. You can offer perspective, you can express concern, you can be there to help them rebuild after things fall apart, but you can't save them. And trying to, especially by going behind their back, by betraying their trust, doesn't make you a hero. It makes you a liability. Jake is happy now. He got there without me, and I have to live with the fact that my absence from his life might have actually been better for him than my presence. That's a hard thing to accept. That maybe the best thing I ever did for my best friend was remove myself from the equation. I still think about that email sometimes. Still wonder if I'd do it differently with the benefit of hindsight. The honest answer is, I hope so. I hope I'd be braver, more direct. I hope I'd talk to Jake first, tell him I was struggling, admit my own fear and jealousy. I hope I'd trust him to make his own choices and support him either way. But I can't be sure, because when you love someone, whether it's romantic love or friendship or family, there's always that impulse to protect them, to shield them from pain you think you can see coming. And it takes a special kind of wisdom to know when to intervene and when to step back. Wisdom I clearly didn't have at 2:17 a.m. on October 9th, 2019. The email is still in my drawer, still folded in thirds, still soft from handling. I don't look at it as often anymore. Maybe once every few months now, on nights when I can't sleep and the old questions resurface. But I don't need to read it to remember every word. Every true, terrible, unforgivable word. And I carry that with me. The weight of good intentions executed badly. The cost of believing I knew better. The permanent loss of someone who mattered more than almost anyone in my life. That's the mistake. That's what it cost me. And I'm still not sure if I learned the lesson or if I just learned to live with the consequences. If you've ever lost someone important because you thought you were helping but made things worse, I'd love to hear about it. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones where we had good intentions but terrible execution. Drop a comment if this story resonated with you. And if you want more honest reflections on the messy ways we navigate relationships and make mistakes we can't undo, a like or subscribe would mean a lot. Thank you for reading and for understanding that sometimes the right thing and the wrong thing can look identical until it's too late to tell the difference.